Hello again. Doing an outdoor version of moving about and manipulating objects today. Wanted to get a little vitamin D, so whatever I can absorb on my face and my hands, those are the only things uncovered, so that'll have to do. Um, Today we are looking at a book that is not a Bible or a prayer book, as you can see. Hopefully you can see. I can't see the screen at all, the camera, so hopefully I'm filming something here. This is a book I picked up at my local thrift. There's been a drought of Bibles and prayer books, but I found this in the classic book shelf, and you can decide for yourself whether this is a classic. I'm not sure you can see that, but $1 was the price. You also won't be able to see the ISBN almost certainly, so I will probably put that in the notes. This is a book by G.A. Henty. This is The Dragon and the Raven, or The Days of King Alfred, in this handsome green cloth overboard with gold printing, not embossed but printed. G.A. Henty. This particular edition is Preston Speed Publications, a reprint, a more modern reprint of this book. G.A. Henty was an author writing in the second half of the 19th century, so he was living December 1832 to November 1902. This particular book was originally published in 1885 in England, Blackie and Son. This reprint, 1995, Preston Speed Publications in Pennsylvania, and this came from a little free library at some point, which is terrific. I love those. G.A. Henty was an author who was primarily writing adventure stories for young men. That was his target audience, and he wrote a lot of them, covering many historical time periods, historical figures, influential people from history all around the world. And they're fascinating. I've read maybe half a dozen of his books, and his protagonists are pretty much invariably young men who are at a particular time in history that where history turned in some direction or another at a place in the world that was significant and vital, and the story would capture the interest certainly of a young person reading and a somewhat less than young person reading. This particular one takes place in in England during the time of the Viking invasions, the Danes invading England, and the Saxons, who had only very recently been the invading party, now settled and Christianized, are defending England from the invading Vikings. And the protagonist is presumably a fictional character, a young man, part of the nobility of Saxon England, who develops into a warrior, a soldier, a sailor, and there's plenty of fighting and land battles and naval battles and a little bit of romance, about as chaste as you could possibly get. G.A. Henty likes protagonists who are decidedly and overtly Christian, and that is the case in this book. Now, some of his books obviously are taking place in the pre-Christian world, so that obviously isn't going to apply, but where he can, he makes his protagonist a heroic, brave, virtuous young man, someone that a reader in the latter half of the 19th century would want to emulate or want their children to emulate. G.A. Henty is decidedly pro-English Empire, and that may be a problem for some. I think it's easy enough to overlook. He's a product of his time, and the books he wrote are products of their time. Certainly there have been more recent attempts to cancel poor Mr. Henty for his imperialism and, among other things, there are, from what I understand in some of his books, some racial insensitivities that would be problematic in a book published today. But again, you can decide for yourself how much grace to extend to a long dead writer who, again, was a product of his time. If we're at the point where we can't accept and admire the virtues of our forebears and try to duplicate those virtues while repenting of and avoiding the vices of our forebears, we're in a bad place. And if we can do those things, emulate the virtues, repent of the vices, well, we'll have moved the ball a little further down the field, I guess, for our descendants, that is. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a political discussion, but just be aware that Mr. Henty was targeted for cancellation. As much as you can cancel a more than a century dead writer. But fascinating book. I read it in 2 evenings, and I'll probably read it again at some point. It's a nice edition. It appears to be a sewn binding. It has really nice, looks like yellow and green head and tail bands. Hopefully my head didn't just get in the camera there. Has these illustrations that look like woodcuts. Maybe they're just designed to look like that. I don't know if those are original to the work or if these were made for the reprinted edition and made to look authentically old. But good, entertaining reading for a winter night or a pair of winter nights or however long it takes you to get through it. And like I said, I've read several G.A. Henty books. I became aware of G.A. Henty when some years ago we were, for a period, homeschooling our children and participating in homeschool groups and homeschool conferences. G.A. Henty was brought up as a popular writer of kind of classic children's adventure stories that taught some history or some historical context, and it's popular among the more conservative homeschool groups. And so it kind of came to my attention that way, and I read a few of the books, and it's just a good time. Don't take a children's adventure story so seriously, I guess would be my advice. But if that sounds like your kind of thing, and I'm sort of an Anglophile these days, interesting read, The Dragon and the Raven, or The Days of King Alfred by G.A. Henty. This one is Preston Speed Publications. A lot of his works, I don't know, maybe all of them are presumably out of copyright now, so you can probably find them online in a PDF for free. I would check and maybe get it on Kindle. You can probably get it for free. So I'm going to sit out here and get the last few drops of sunshine and vitamin D, absorb it through the ample acreage of my schnoz, and then maybe go find another book to read. So thanks for joining me for this chilly but sunny outdoor edition of Moving About and Manipulating Objects, and maybe you will join me again next time.